We know you've seen countless lists of insanely overpowered anime characters, and maybe a few about those that like to hide their strength. But we've got a couple of insanely overpowered anime characters on here that don't like the world knowing just how overpowered they really are. Welcome back to Animeology. We've scoured the anime world and bring you a bunch of insanely overpowered characters that like to keep their true strength a secret. Let's jump right into it. Number 10, Leonardo Watch, Blood Blockade Battlefront. A brilliant anime series set in a futuristic version of New York City. This awesome blend of action, fantasy, and sci-fi is headed by an insanely overpowered MC by the name of Leonardo Watch. Leonardo is a kind and humble young photographer whose only goal is to help out and assist his sickly sister. A supernatural being gave him some insane powers, the all-seeing eyes of the gods. Alongside his blind sister, Leonardo attempts to make the world a safer place, facing off and battling a number of vicious beasts and horrific monsters. Although somewhat of a coward that likes to hide his true powers, Leonardo can use his eyes in some pretty interesting ways. Contrary to most overpowered anime MCs that can punch really hard or run really fast, Leonardo and his overpowered eyes definitely make fight scenes a lot more epic and interesting than most. Number 9, Wang Ling, the daily life of an immortal king. This anime takes a very interesting look at what it means to have an insanely overpowered main character. The daily life goes one step further and gives our MC some challenges that being insanely overpowered doesn't really help with, making friends and getting through school. We meet Wang Ling, an absolute genius that has been changing the world since he was a baby. Seriously, since the age of 1, Wang Ling has been living a near invincible existence and gained a real reputation for himself, largely due to the fact that Wang Ling is a reincarnated immortal emperor. Obsessed with living a peaceful life, the series starts off with Wang Ling at the age of 16 and beginning his time in senior high school, something he considered his greatest battle yet. Although physically and mentally, Wang Ling might be far superior, when it comes to socializing and high school life, we discover that the MC isn't truly the overpowered god you thought he was. Wang Ling is a seriously awesome MC, extremely relatable when it comes to making friends and meeting new people. But every now and then he definitely needs to keep his power in check and hide it from everyone around him. Number 8, Lichtbach, Plunderer. A phenomenal anime series set against the backdrop of a visually interesting and engaging post-apocalyptic world. A world that is dominated by numbers, with every single human having a special number count printed somewhere on their bodies. This number is tied to an important part of their lives. If the number drops to 0, this person is dragged into the abyss and is said to be dead for eternity. We follow young Hina, a girl whose number corresponds to the number of kilometers she has walked. Her mother was dragged into the abyss, and her dying wish was for her daughter to find the legendary ace warrior, Lichtbach. The story really kicks off when she finally meets the strange and oddly perverse knight. Things get even stranger when we realize that this powerful knight actually has a negative number count and is constantly chased by evil trying to destroy him and drag him into the abyss. And what does his negative number relate to? The amount of times Lichtbach has been rejected by girls. Number 7, Akihito, Beyond the Boundary. An awesome dark fantasy romance with some very intimate and likable characters makes Beyond the Boundary a very unique and engaging watch. Set in a seemingly normal high school, Beyond the Boundary shakes things up from the very first minute and takes us on a wild ride into the supernatural. We meet high school student Akihito Kambara as he attempts to save Mirai from committing suicide. Yeah, pretty heavy first episode. Mirai accidentally stabs Akihito and we learn that Akihito is actually an immortal supernatural being. We then learn that Mirai is actually a spirit world warrior. Yes, this is definitely a lot to take in. Akihito is a second-year student and a member of the literary club. He's insanely powerful and is able to instantly heal from his wounds, making him unbelievably overpowered. With short blonde hair and soft features, Akihito is actually really playful, friendly, and often very sarcastic. A perfect match, creating some fantastic chemistry with Mira Kuriyama. Akihito Kanbara and Beyond the Boundary is an anime series you definitely need to check out. Number 6. Satan. The devil is a part-timer. A brilliant comedy fantasy series, The Devil is a Part-Timer is easily one of the biggest names on this list. A fantastic anime with a really unique idea, we follow the demon lord Satan. Facing off against powerful heroes and seeing his generals get defeated, Satan is forced to escape his magical world and arrives in modern-day Tokyo. There is a lack of magic in our world, and Satan is forced to change his form and appear to be a normal human. He also takes up a part-time job working at a fast food restaurant. Going by the name Sadao Mao, the once powerful Devil King that used to rage huge wars and lead epic armies, now reduced to this. With sharp red eyes and slightly messy black hair, muscular and strong, although Sadao looks very human, there are a couple of signs that he's actually the devil. With clawed hands and horns hidden underneath his hair, not to mention his huge bat-like wings, although he usually keeps those hidden. Really smart, a hard worker, and actually very charming. Sadao tries his best to keep his true identity a secret, but when the time comes, he reveals the sort of powers and abilities that made him a demon king. From telekinesis, mind control, teleportation, transforming his appearance, and magical combat, there is a lot here that really makes the Devil King unbelievably overpowered. Number 5. Yato Noragami. An absolutely brilliant action fantasy series with some nice supernatural flavors. Noragami is an all-around quality anime, following Hiyori Iki, a normal middle school girl that gets involved in a bus accident. She meets this strange, nameless god without a shrine, Yato. This drifting god is determined to make a name for himself, and Hiyori enlists his help to get her body fixed. A really obscure god that wants to become the god of fortune, Yato looks like a young man with messy dark black hair and beautiful light blue eyes. Yato can be mischievous, crude, and unpredictable in his behavior, with a very low tolerance before he becomes upset, and can be very childish and gullible at times. Really bad with money as well, spending it constantly on drinking, gambling, and buying worthless things, although he can be really wise and intelligent when he needs to be. That being said, Yato still boasts a lot of impressive abilities that really make him unbelievably overpowered. He's basically immortal and can teleport all around. He's also an unbelievably gifted fighter, capable of using a number of different weapons really well and combining them with his godlike magical powers. But, of course, the power of a god is nothing to be trifled with, no matter how big or small. And although Yato seems relatively relaxed and pleasant on the outside, you will soon realize that you do not want to anger a god. Number 4. Yuu Otosaka Charlotte. Charlotte is an absolutely brilliant anime series that surrounds the first-year transfer student Yuu Otosaka. Yuu actually has the ability to temporarily possess a person for 5 seconds. However, it's later revealed that his actual ability is stealing the abilities of the ability user he possesses. As you can imagine, this makes Yuu insanely overpowered, and he later becomes known as the One-Eyed Grim Reaper, and is easily one of the most powerful beings in all of Charlotte and possibly all of anime. Yuu is a pretty good-looking boy, with dark brown hair and maroon eyes. He starts off as selfish, arrogant, and narcissistic, and constantly misuses his powerful magical abilities. He's actually an insanely lazy student and uses his abilities to cheat and achieve good grades. He's naturally intelligent but unbelievably lazy. A pretty original and interesting MC that we love catching up with. Number 3. Rimuru Tempest. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. One of the biggest animes out right now, Rimuru is the lead character and is easily one of the most powerful magic users across all of anime. Initially arriving in this isekai world as a blue slime, slowly morphing into a demon slime, silver with streaks of gold. It was only a matter of time until this slime began to morph and emulate the creatures around it, growing over time and imitating larger creatures until we see Rimuru mimic an actual human child. With blue-silver hair, the small childlike appearance of Rimuru Tempest should not fool you, because this slime is an insanely overpowered magic user. Very kind and quirky, laid back and relaxed, Rimuru looks to avoid any sort of drama and unnecessarily difficult situations. However, when things get tough, Rimuru definitely tends to panic and overreact, but this shows just how much he cares for them, getting extremely worried as opposed to his usual cheerful self. When Rimuru accesses his real rage and anger, you really need to watch out. Number 2. Mob Psycho 100. Alright, so compared to the other beefy and muscly MCs on this list, Shigeo really doesn't look like much, and that is where you'd be wrong. Quiet, shy, and definitely an introvert. In fact, his nickname Mob comes from the fact that he can just blend into a crowd. But let's not forget that it's called Mob Psycho. When Mob loses control of his emotions or falls unconscious, his psychic powers are, well, let's just say that they are like a bunch of natural disasters rolled into one. That's right. He basically has the powers of a god just ripping through the planet, and he's not even aware. Sure, he's just a weak kid that any of us could easily defeat, but Mob's invisible and instantaneous psychic attacks? This MC can move buildings, make indestructible force fields, fly? Honestly, if we saw him operating at 100% power, he'd probably top this list. Unfortunately, that only happens when he's not aware. Number 1. Lelouch, Code Geass. One of the coolest ideas for an MC we've seen in an anime. The latest season came out recently, and you should definitely check it out. Set in an ultra-futuristic world with an epic war between the global superpowers Britannia, the European Union, and the Chinese Federation, Code Geass throws us into an occupied Japan and tells the story of the terrorist revolution as the people try and win their country back. An awesome story with an extremely smart and calculated MC that manages to swing the tide of battle with some of the best twists we've ever seen. Lelouch is an absolute mastermind. A brilliant fighter, his real skills lie as a mastermind tactician. Combine that with the fact that he has the use of an insanely overpowered relic under his control. A seemingly normal and unassuming kid, when he puts his mask on, he becomes the leader of the resistance. With awesome mech battles that were more like a chess match than anything else, the high tension moments in Code Geass are unlike any other.